Third and goal. Purdy, pressure, steps up. Touchdown, San Francisco. It's McCaffrey.
Absolutely incredible.
Hey, y'all, it's me, your host, Matt Rogers, on the Honorable Mention podcast. We have two wonderful guests today. If you've listened to the show before, you've definitely heard from OJ Spivey from the Philadelphia Tribune and Chris Franklin from NJ.com. The last time we came to you was before the Eagles wild card game loss at San Francisco. Pretty, from a Eagles fan, I'll just put my cards on the table. Very disappointing loss because the Eagles were significantly a better team. It was a very impactful loss as the Eagles have moved on from both their offensive coordinator and run game coordinator. Let's start with OJ on this one. What's y'all's sense of the direction they wanted to take with the hiring of Ryan Mahaffey as run game coordinator from Green Bay?
Well, I just take it from a fan standpoint, first of all, not me as a fan, but fans were pleading, they were almost demanding a change, right? We all saw how the offense looked, lack of creativity, lack of execution, however you want to slice it. I mean, it's equal opportunity there, right? But with this change, some people were kind of taken aback where, they wanted someone with experience, I guess the de facto equivalent of Vic Fangio, but on offense, and that's not necessarily realistic. Just the way, offensive coaching is in the NFL. But I'm like, okay, well, you wanted to change, and this is the change. And, they got a lot younger. And I do think from the offensive side, it is more of a young man's game. From what we see all across the league and, the teams that are continuously good or, the teams that do well and just overall. But, I'm not sure, I don't know a whole lot about Mahaffey, but I do, looking at his resume, it's not like he just, picked up a clipboard, a couple years ago. He has been coaching, even though he's still a young guy. He has been coaching for almost a decade. So I think it's quite a shift, obviously, from what they'll be doing as far as, the run game is concerned. And I know we'll get more into this. But I even though it's unscientific from my view, I do have a theory that this new type of blocking scheme, well, it's new for the Eagles, but, it's been around for a couple of decades now, going back to Mike Shanahan and even, a little bit before that. I think it's as much as, even though I do think it's still a physical style, I think is also part preservation with the offensive line, because it's still physical, but I think it's a little bit more finesse style too.
Yeah.
And I think, it might be a way to preserve, some of these guys, especially your younger linemen such as Cam Jurgens, Landon Dickerson, assuming that they come back fully healthy, as we're learning in these past couple of weeks. So again, I don't know a whole lot about Mahaffey, but he looks like he's someone who is seasoned, even though he's not seasoned as far as age is concerned.
What do you think, Chris?
I agree with OJ. Excuse me. And I also would add this as well too. With him being a former wide receivers coach, I'll start with this. He's from Green Bay. He knows Sean Mannion very well. He knows the different tweaks and the ins and outs of that offense already. So that's what I think he can bring in that. But also with the wide receiver, when we know so much about the Shanahan scheme, they love to run that outside zone. And when you look at the way it's funny when you look at the Eagles, what they did so well last year. When you look at it, they had trouble running the ball up the middle, although I think it was more predictable when they were doing it. Excuse me. They had their success. Most of their yards per average were on the outside towards the edges. So I think they'll be fine there. And knowing that you have Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson, I think that'll help the transition a little bit more. Then also the fact that he was a wide receivers coach, And using a run game, he knows how important those edges are. So you can utilize the wide receivers more. You look at those crack looks when it comes to run just a one-side thing. The big thing I want to see what he does is working in conjunction with the running backs, especially Saquon Barkley. How does he time everything up? Because we've seen Barkley has a tendency sometimes to go, he can be patient, but there's sometimes when he just looks like 1, 2, where's that cutback lane? Okay.
Yep.
And then it's like, and the run's gone there. So I look at that. And then also, even though it's not necessarily his forte, he's not going to be what his responsibility is with because he's a run game instead of pass game. I think he'll also time up the looks when they're doing the play action passes, because the run, if they get that run game going, teams are going to have to fly those safeties up. So he can time it up so that way he can help those guys get the steps, and then he can help coordinate, hey, do this little look differently so that way we can get these guys out there in the passing game. So there's a little things that I think he can bring in to help out Mannion, especially in his first year.
Yeah, just to piggyback on Chris real quick, you mentioned timing, and timing is just so important with any type of offense you run, whether it's passing, whether it's running, and for them to get that down, and again the familiarity, like you said, with Mannion, I think that's going to be key, and it's going to be interesting to see, especially when they, I don't know how much we'll see, during mini camp and OTAs and all those things, but. Hopefully they'll give us a little bit of what's the story.
You get to see a little the skeleton of the offense at that point, because they're not going to let you see but so much, and it's going to be time for y'all to leave at some point, So
yeah.
Do you think that the Mahaffey move was more because of everything that led to Stoutland University being closed, the Philadelphia campus of Stoutland University being closed, Stoutland being resistant to the change of more of what they were trying to look for, or was it just time for a fresh start for everybody? Chris, let's go to you for that first.
I think it was just a fresh start, and a lot of times when you look at offensive linemen, and especially offensive line coaches, they're grizzled in what they think will be the best way to run everything. So if you think that, hey, you know what, you need to fire out towards this block with this certain technique, they need to drill that in, which affects the run, how the running backs do their things, where they take their first steps and go from there. I think with Stoutland, it's just a matter of he'd have to reteach and change everything that he's doing with this style of offense. And at this point in age, he's getting older. He's got grandkids on the way and everything else. Not to say that he wouldn't learn to study or anything like that. I think it's just one of the things like, you know what? I had a lot of success. Let me sit back and help him out a little bit and then see where the chips fall later, whether it's another team or have you. It's with this scheme, it's going to be a whole different thing. I'm trying to come like a thing. It's like it's almost like doing the electric slide for so long when it comes to like, okay, both the tackle and the tackle and the tackle guards have to move to the same side and move up. And we all know the steps. Like, okay, you're doing this. It's like, oh no, we're doing the Cupid shuffle now. What?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I'm out. I'll see y'all on the floor later on. It's almost sort of like that. It feels like when it does that. So I think it was more of that, and then you just once Stoutland made his decision, then it became okay, what's the best person on short notice too? Because a lot of teams have their staffs already assembled. Who can best fit what they currently are trying to do that was available? I think that's where I think the decision was made to make this hire.
Yeah.
I'll give you another one, another dance analogy, Chris. I think maybe going from the electric slide, even from the Cupid shuffle to the Grant Hill and Tamia dance. So, which that is pretty difficult, So they make it look so easy, right? But it's so finesse and it's so smooth, right?
Oh.
So, that I think that's kind of what it'll look like, and it's very synchronized too. That type of zone blocking scheme too, because you can look back at old films. Like you can go back 20, 25 years and see that scheme. And what's so interesting about it is, back to the point of Stoutland University, the NFL, and another thing that I've learned over time, the NFL changes rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to think it was every 5 years. I think it's even sooner than that now. Might be every 2 or 3. Right. Look what happened with the tush push. People were getting, people are kind of onto it, and
Oh yeah.
and I know that's partly Eagles' fault too, as far as the injuries and just not executing it as well. But it's funny how it's not on the table for extension this year. It's all
Absolutely.
season. But yeah, it's kind of like
Curious.
yeah, like Chris said, old dog and learning new tricks. Maybe if he was a few years younger, he might have been more willing to do so. But again, I think even more importantly than that you have a new offensive coordinator in Sean Mannion, and it's natural, and it is completely understandable for him to have his own guys in here. And unfortunately, as much as fans and maybe us in the media have loved talking Stoutland over the years. He's a great interview, by the way, as well. When you do get a chance to talk to him, I mean, it's a fresh start, like Chris said. So it's unfortunate, but at this point, it almost had to happen. In my opinion.
Can I give a quick story real quick about Stoutland? You made
Go
a good
ahead,
point
Chris.
about when it comes to do the interviews. I remember I was talking to I asked for like a one-on-one to do, and I was talking about Tyler Steen and like how he's developing into like this to the player like before he was started. I think it's like 23, I think it was, or 24. And so I'm talking to him. We go outside of the NovaCare meeting part, and this guy's and he's talking about the technique. He's like stand like this over there. So he goes into a teaching moment where I'm standing like I'm the dummy, like the tackle them, whatever.
Wow.
This man at his age just goes and goes boom like that. Now I'm 6'3", 240 something. He had me on my body like stumbling back. It was like that guy. You still saw that like during the practices and everything else this year. He still has it, and that's why. As much as I think he wants to keep back, I wouldn't put it past him if he finds the right situation. Yeah, I can see him.
Still has that fire
going somewhere else.
And the opportunity to stick it to the, just to say, hey, I'm not cooked. I'm leaving on my terms. When I leave, he's certainly, I would presume, quite the competitor. Yeah.
Bama, maybe?
So there's been talk of Mekhi Becton coming back to the Eagles. I don't know. What say y'all? OJ, go first on this one.
I haven't really. People have brought that out, especially on social media. I haven't really thought about it. I mean, it just all depends how much they think of Steen, and depending on who you talk to, the report card on Steen kind of varies. I thought he wasn't as bad as people made him out to be, and I think he probably deserves another year. But Becton was good. But how will he be in this new scheme, right? And I'm not sure exactly what type of scheme that the Chargers ran, but he didn't have a good year there. So I'm not sure.
There were two things I saw. Well, one was I thought I saw something that Howie Roseman said that Steen was the right guard or starting right guard coming in this year, which I'm like, wow. Even without that, if Stoutland was here and he was available, I think that would have been a guy that I really would look at as a right guard and put it in. Now, since we saw how big he is, like 6'7", and getting to that second level, like he's a good big road grader, but since if you try to look at those athletic guys, maybe he's a little fit, not to fit so much for this one. That doesn't preclude me, though, from looking at a guard in the draft. I think they addressed that and moving that one. But Becton, I think he might wind up somewhere else. Somebody's going to give him a decent. I still think somebody's going to give him a decent amount. And with those if he isn't a gap blocking centric focus type of offense, I think he can still do very well.
Yeah. And overall,
go ahead, OJ. Sorry.
Overall, with this zone blocking scheme, traditionally, again, I don't know, how scouts and coaches look at it now. Traditionally, with this type of blocking scheme, they've been offensive linemen has usually been smaller guys. So I don't know if that'll be any type of shift with the Eagles going forward. I mean, I know you're not going to overhaul your offensive line in 1 year, of course not. That would be, crazy. But Becton is one of the biggest in the league. So, it wouldn't seem necessarily like a perfect fit.
No. Yeah, I mean, the only way I see it really, and I agree with y'all, the only way I see it happening is, if his value falls to something like, $3 million, 1 year deal, prove it deal. But, I'm thinking his value is going to be significantly higher than that, more in the range, maybe still a prove it deal, but like a $9 million prove it deal, because he was pretty good and he was a Super Bowl champ, had a rough fit at the Chargers. Maybe his agent can sell that. If his value gets low, though, I could maybe give it a try. As you guys know, for years, I've thought the Eagles have underinvested in the tight end position. Chris, you know that. I complain about it every year, and my big thing is let's do the hybrid tight end thing. I mean, do you think the Mahaffey and them will not Mahaffey, Mannion will change that, like that, and really get Howie? Hey, like, we can't be going with these Grant Calcaterra, no disrespect, folk, but like they're not scaring me if I'm a defensive coordinator. I'm not worried about you coming out the backside, Calcaterra with your 8-yard gain on the, it's a slant and going down immediately.
Wow. He said he's not a yak king. No, I think they do it. It's a twofold process, and it kind of would go back to the way that the Eagles did it back in the early 2000s. I think they drafted tight end, not in the first round. Like I think a lot of people say, "Oh, they're going to draft tight end for this team has too many other needs to go in the first round."
Yeah, that's reckless. Yeah.
So you got 3 day 2 picks as of now. One I probably trade just back to get a pick next year, which draft is deeper. Hopefully somebody gives you a second next year. But I look at taking a guy like Max Clare out of Ohio State, who still it's almost like a younger version of Dallas Goedert, where you look at his ability to run his routes up the seams, and I like what he does there. Thing is, he still needs to be refined in some of those blocking things. But then I'd also look at and then when I go back to say the Eagles did beforehand. Remember Jeff Thomason when he came from Green Bay? There's a guy they have, John Fitzpatrick, who's a free agent. Now he's coming off an Achilles injury, but he was their best blocking tight end. They relied on him a lot. So that's a guy I would look at, particularly Sonny. You're probably getting him on a friendly deal because he's coming off that injury. He definitely won't take up a lot of that cap space. You get Claire, you get that. Goddard. And if you can work something out where it's friendly, it's nice. But I think somebody's going to pay stupid money for him because just oh, what's this? Tight end touchdowns. Oh, he's that. Okay, here, take all my money. We need this. Okay, cool.
Exactly.
Double-digit touchdowns. Yeah, I think I was looking at the free agent list, and I don't think the Eagles would go all out to get somebody like Njoku, and he's really the guy that stands out because it's not a deep free agent list. So the draft would have to be where they dig into, and again, who are the offensive coaches familiar with? Like Chris said, who Sean Mannion coached, who maybe Grizzard coached, in Tampa Bay and all those things. So maybe find a guy down in the depth chart and other places. But they would have to draft a tight end, whether it be, the kid from Ohio State. And, I look at last year, I definitely wanted them to draft a tight end last year. Then, you look at somebody who like really, fell off the charts last year. And that's the kid from Chicago, Loveland. So
Colson Loveland,
Colson Loveland is, they can find somebody like him, and Tyler Warren wasn't going to be available, staying on the board last year, so they really have to do their due diligence and get some depth at tight end, and not only to get someone who can catch the ball, but again, blocking is so important. I don't care what type of scheme that you use, you got to have guys in there that can block.
Yeah, and speaking of the Shanahan offense, I mean, y'all know this. Talking to me about ball, I'm a big believer in the converted tight end from wide receiver, big dudes who are just in the league, not going to burn anybody. Get their ass in the weight room, get them on the sled. If they need a year, give them a year.
Are you saying you're Johnny Wilsons of the world?
Yes. Why was Johnny? Y'all know. And he maybe he might cook in that position because he's gonna,
He would have to put a lot of weight on, I think. For me, he would have to put a lot of weight on. I forget what he's listed at, but when you see him up close, it's like, okay, can you really convert him into a tight end? I'm not sure.
And you can also mask him too if you want to make teams, because teams always look out the huddle. They put that hole up 11 or 12, whatever.
Right.
You can mask him a little bit, even you keep him as a wide receiver, but mask him like in a nasty slot area where he's very close to the tackle. And then if you want to run a bunch set off of that and run all that stuff, and then run out of that, you can get away with that maybe for a little bit. So you can keep Wilson as a wide receiver and then also get another tight end too. I mean, you go heavy on. Was it Green Bay that ran it, or that one too? I think somebody ran I'm getting my schools mixed up. Who knows? Like a 14. I'm thinking Ohio State's with Claire. But you know what though? If you get Wilson on there down inside the 5, even though technically it would be 13 personnel.
Yeah. I agree.
Who even carries for? Who even cares?
Or at least utilize him in those situations.
I love it. That's why he's on my team. I like getting him as a player, but I thought that's what we were going to be doing. And I checked, he's 6'6", 228. So maybe put another 10, 12 pounds on, and really it'll be about form. And yeah, I mean, Travis Kelce ain't much of a blocker either, to be, so.
Blocks more on social media than that.
But yeah, Shannon Sharp was a converted wide receiver, and really worked well in that Denver Broncos zone scheme. So it could work. It's if anybody's listening, they haven't listened so far because they were good with Calcaterra and Stoll and. We could name them. It was like the early 2000s. I mean, Dallas Goedert is a very good pick, so they got to get credit for that. And Selleck was good, but it's a little rough. It's been rough. So
just don't wait a decade to draft another.
Arcega-Whiteside. At a certain point, I was like, "Hey, this is last chance university for me. For slow wide receivers, it's last chance you at the tight end position."
And he got picked up too. I think it was in Seattle. They picked him up as a tight end. They saw something. I don't know what, but they saw something in him too. They brought him back.
That's right. I forgot about that.
I'm like, is he going to do something here? Okay, maybe do change the scenery. Boom, 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 boom. No, unfortunately. So
yeah, it's rough.
Well, thank you all for coming on. There's so much to get into, but our guests have been so gracious with their time. We'll have to invite them back to get into more of what y'all want to hear about. I have a sense of maybe what y'all wanted to hear about, but we were not going to talk about that today, and everybody knows what that is. Please share this online and let us know what you would like to hear about next time. Thank you, Chris and OJ. Go ahead and plug your handles so people can support you and go read your stuff and subscribe and all that. OJ, go first.
All right. So you can just go on all the platforms and just go to OJ Philly. I'm on Twitter X. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Threads. So all the platforms, just hit me up. And also phillytrib.com, of course, to read all my stories.
Yeah, you can find mine on nj.com. You can find that Chris Franklin. I'm on C. Franklin News on X, Blue Sky, Threads, TikTok. Yeah, TikTok is. I'm trying to build that a little more because. Yeah, I'll try to do that a little bit.
I'm on TikTok.
Other than that,
but yeah, like I'm with Chris though. Yeah, trying to figure it out.
Yeah, see,
gotta ask my kid, I guess.
Plan.
They like sports on TikTok. I guess I could ask this off air, but that's
well. I think some of the leagues are on there, so you might as well.
I will consider. All right, folks. You may see me soon on TikTok. Go to POLITIDOPE, Politidope. That's my handle, personal handle, and all the stuff. It's interesting stuff. Get into sports and a variety of other things, including all this content for the Honorable Mention podcast. Thank you all for listening. See you again soon.
Yeah, you always try to make decisions in calm times. You don't. We do the same thing in the draft. We have a value for, every player on the roster, so that we don't get sideswiped on anything. That we understand what we would do. That doesn't mean we would trade them, but at the same time, we got to be open to listen on everything that we do here. That's what a lot of this week's about. That's what a lot of the first couple weeks of free agency is about. That doesn't mean there'll necessarily be action, but you got to be willing to listen. We'll do that during the draft as well, and decide what's the best for the Philadelphia Eagles. At the end of the day, everything we do is what's best for the Philadelphia Eagles, so that we can try to compete and hopefully win another championship.